From Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And check out that eye. That's exactly what we want to see. Woo! Look at that panel, baby. And that, as they say, is that. To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear, well, you all know the rest. This is the Uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And join me today for my overview of Conan the Barbarian, the original comics omnibus volume 5, as well as The Savage Sword of Conan, the original comics omnibus volume 5, from Heroic Signatures and Titan Comics. So let's go ahead and get started. And welcome back, everybody. Before going any further, a big thank you to the folks at Heroic Signatures and Titan Comics for sending us copies of both of these omnis. These omnis are already out in the direct market and book market. And I just realized something when I was reading this Omnibus Volume 5. Whenever I did my original review of it many years ago of the Marvel printing, I didn't read all of it. So I was reading some of the stuff, and I'll explain when I get to it here in a little bit. But yes, we're going to be looking at each and every one of these two books here, the inside artwork, and then of course looking at the extras and looking at the mapping and the build and what was missing from one of the releases compared to the original Marvel release. But yeah, actually, let's go ahead and start that with the Conan the Barbarian, the original comics omnibus volume 5. First of all, I want to say that this cover right here is the direct market cover. On the left-hand side is your standard edition cover that is going to be available everywhere, while the direct market cover is only available at places like cheapgraphicnovels.com, waltzcomicshop.com, bdcosmos.com, forbiddenplanet.com, readcomics.com, comicsbugle.com, dyingbreedcollectors.com, and places like that. Or your local comic book store, of course. But let's take a look at it and compare it to the Marvel release. This is the one that came out a few years back, and it's got a cover by Gil Kane. And they are choosing different covers at Heroic Signatures and Titan Comics. So let's actually compare the spine here. Same image right there, Volume 5. JMD Mateas, Bruce Jones, Roy Thomas, John Buscema, Gil Kane. And then Conan the Barbarian, the original comics omnibus, compared to the Conan the Barbarian, the original Marvel years. Marvel Omnibus, and then Heroic Signatures and Titan Comics. I swear, never have I seen a company try to make collectors happy by keeping the same design for their books. I love what they're doing over there. They're keeping the same font for the back here. A new era in the legendary saga of Conan begins. This is the post-Roy Thomas era. You have the Marvel logo there, but over here is the Heroic Signatures and Titan Comics. What's collected, and then, of course, your ISBN and retail price right there, and the covers of what's included in here. And this one here does retail for $150. Now let's look underneath the dust jackets. So you have your flaps over here, Conan the Wanderer, and then a little bit about the creators, because this is that era of Conan the Barbarian when he's wandering around for a while, even getting some sidekicks, if you will, which is so weird for Conan. And it's the exact same there. The flaps of the original dust jacket, and then again the spines, looking like the spines of the dust jackets. And then, yeah, it's the same thing that I've seen, just has a lighter tone over here. All right, we are going to open this up and talk about the type of stories found in here, look at this artwork, look at the extras, and see what is missing from this book that was collected in the Marvel printing. All right, Conan the Barbarian. Let's get this. I love the end sheets. Wonderful piece of art right there by Big John Buscema. Conan the Barbarian, Volume 5. Heroic Signatures, Titan Comics, special thanks. And then you have the credits here: JMD Mateas, Bruce Jones, Can't Hear More Talk Pretty One Day, Bruce Jones, Roy Thomas, Len Wein, Larry Hama, Stephen Grant, Alan Selenitz, Joe Duffy, and the pencilers and layouts: Big John Buscema, Gil Kane, and Val Mayerick, Alfredo Alcala, just to name a few. Neil Adams, issue 116. We got to talk about that. As inks over here, the Crusty Bunkers, which is Neil Adams and his group, and John Buscema, Ernie Chan, Bob McLeod, and Bob Camp, just to name a few. Your letterers over here, like Karen Matlow and Rick Parker, and Joe Rosen. Your colorists, like George Roussos and Don Warfield, and your editors at the time. This is very important because Wheezy is the editor at the time, and then eventually it'll be Larry Hama. Your table of contents right here. So what is collected in this omnibus? Collected in this omnibus is Conan the Barbarian 116 to 149 and annuals 6 through 9. Conan of the Isles, and the book has a total of 1,008 pages. You have an introduction not only by JMD Mateas here, but also JMD Mateas and JMD Mateas and Bruce Jones. And these are wonderful introductions as far as the character of Conan and where he is during this particular time and the route they took, and the behind the scenes are hilarious, with Big John getting upset at JMD Mateas because he claimed that he did not understand Conan. I love hearing stories like that. Oh my gosh. We have to talk about issue 116. And by the way, before I do the comparison, what is missing in this particular printing is What If number 39. That's what's missing here. Issue 116 is The Crawler in the Mist. I want to say it's the only time collaboration between John Buscema and Neil Adams. Oh my gosh. It's so good. It is a collaboration between also Len Wein and, of course, JMD Mateas. And they just recycle a Conan record album that Marvel produced. And it never really took off, but they used it as this particular story for the comic book. And I just thought it was really cool to see, Conan drawn by Big John and also inked by Neil Adams. So that's all I will say about it, but I had to show that off. It's beautiful. But yes, now we have JMD Mateas taking over the book. John Buscema still there with Ernie Chan and also Bob McLeod. And each one of these issues, it feels like JMD Mateas was trying to find the voice of Conan and what type of adventures he goes on. It's very, I don't want to just call it cookie cutter, because I have a lot of fun reminiscing about these issues. I always heard about how bad it was, but honestly, I thought it was really good. And same thing with like Christopher Priest. I thought it was good. The one thing I will say about JMD Mateas' run that is so different than anybody else's run is that eventually Conan will get a supporting cast, some fellow travelers, if you will. And I think that's what not just I, but also Big John had a problem with, because you are going to see two characters appear through here that are kind of friends to Conan, and they're young kids at that too. One of them is John Wall, and the other kid, what is the other kid's name? Duke? No, it's not Dunkirk. It's like Duke Nurk, something like that. But anyway, it's funny when you read the behind the scenes that Big John was not a fan of those two kids either. He's like, none of this makes any sense. Why would Conan take these kids into danger? And they're not the only ones. He also takes other people with him too. And it just kind of becomes a big party. Now, when JMD Mateas has heard enough from his artist, he does end up, let's just say, getting rid of the characters, if you will. So, yes. And I think that ends up happening in this storyline right here with the Witches of Nex, which is all part of the voice of One Long Gone, if I'm not mistaken, where something like that happens. Now, we do have the beginning of Gil Kane's artwork. Man, I don't go back and watch my old overviews, so I don't know if I mentioned this, but the older I get, the more I appreciate Gil Kane's art, and people like John Buscema and Gene Colan. I don't know, there's something special about their artwork. Letter pages are intact, just like the previous releases. And yeah, it does feel different than Big John. Now, Big John does come back, but Gil Kane's artwork almost like has a weird animated look to it that is so different than that of John Buscema. I don't know if he was a trained like cartoonist or where he got inspiration from, but I thought that his art is just solid. Now, eventually you will there is I think it's the next issue actually, where Gil Kane is inked by one of my favorite inkers, and that is Ernie Chan right here. Let's see. Yeah, Ernie Chan. So now we have Bruce Jones taking over the book. And here's the thing. I don't think I read all of this when I was doing my overview of Volume 5. Because I was like, most of the time I remember stories as I'm flipping through here. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that. That's a really cool story. Like, this is the Rings of Rags, which is, you know, again, I remember that it was Gil Kane and Ernie Chan drawing these particular issues. But then I was like, I don't remember John Buscema coming back, so let's actually get to... Oh, got to talk about Mark Silvestri right here. A young Mark Silvestri. But it's in this issue. I remember reading that one. I think it's in this issue that I don't remember reading, and I could be wrong. But in the very next issue, issue 136, John Buscema comes back. And I don't remember reading this issue. This is the River of Death storyline right here, and Danny Bulanati is inking his stuff here. And then when we get to issues it's after this one, it's 140. Bruce Jones, by the way, has a unique take on the character of Conan. Because, yeah, look, it's John Buscema, pencils and inks. This, I don't remember reading the Spider Isle. He adds a horror element to the Conan stories. But has humor in there too. It's a well balanced, and the reason I assume that he started writing these stories here is because he was a writer at Warren Magazine, and because we saw that Louise Jones at the time was the editor on these books. She probably is the one that remembered him writing those comics, and she asked and approached him to come over. And you can find all that stuff out in the introduction here. Yeah, but I don't remember reading this. Now we have Ernie Chan back on inks right here. So he's adding his own type of stories being told through here. Alan Zelenitz does come back, or actually starts writing some of the issues through here. And you have some annuals from Roy Thomas also through here. And if you want to know the difference between Roy Thomas and Bruce Jones and JMD Mateas, just come back and read this story right here from annual number 6. It's just how different in his understanding of the character, how Conan talks, how he acts, and how he reacts to different things that are approaching him. This right here is the 3-part adaptation of Conan of the Isles. And there's the red shadows. This is Roy Thomas and Big John Buscema. Now, I do remember reading those, but maybe I just skipped some of the Bruce Jones and Alan Zelenitz issues. All right, we talked about the type of stories in here. We looked at the artwork. Let's look at the extras. So we do have some extras here. Conan the Comedian. Some original artwork here from Big John and Gil Kane. Cover sketches, unused cover right here by Big John, including the color guide. Oh, these are forwards by Bruce Jones and Roy Thomas. And then this is the cover to volume 5 right here, the standard edition cover by Alex Ross in your end sheets. As far as the binding, 1,008 pages. Sewn binding and printed in this glossy paper stock. Let's do a quick comparison to the Marvel printing. You have the Marvel Omni over here on the left hand side, and the Titan Heroic signatures over here on the right. And paper stock seems a little thicker in the Titan Heroic signatures. Let's get to the actual comics here. So I'm going to do a comparison of, I guess, the way it lays over. You have less gutter loss over here than over here in this printing. And the thickness does help a little bit. You have some bleed through, but not as prominent as over here, where you can see actually some of the pictures from this side of the book. And yeah, so as far as what I was talking about, what is not collected in the new printing, so you're at page 978, and then when you get to page 980, you go right to the extras. Whereas over here, you have the What If 39, What If the Mighty Thor battled Conan, which is not collected over here in the Titan Heroic Signatures printing. But what they do is they jump straight into the extras, which is right here. So you're missing about 40 pages, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Let's check it out. So it seems like the extras are intact, excluding the sketches, which we saw earlier. Unused covers. And then the forwards. That's it, though. That's what's missing. It's just the What If issue. Savage Sword of Conan. Here we go. So, first things first, this here is the direct market cover. On the left-hand side is your standard edition cover that's going to be available everywhere. Of course, both covers underneath this dust jacket are identical. And this was previously released before by Marvel. But unlike the original comics, Omnibus Volume 5, this has the exact same page count between the Marvel release and the Heroic Signatures and Titan Comics release. 768 pages. So worry not, it's got the same content. The spine of the book, Michael Fleischer, Roy Thomas, Bruce Jones, John Buscema, Gil Kane, Ernie Chan. And then the back of the book right here. Mature content, and over here, suggested for mature readers. And Conan's Savage Saga rages on. Oh my gosh, I can't wait for more of this stuff. Now, this is the stuff I have read, and I will be comparing it, of course, the internal look of the book to the Marvel release. But there you go, Savage Sword of Conan, the original comics omnibus, while over here is the original Marvel years, the spines of the books. This one looking a little bit thicker. Not sure if it catches on camera or not, and that's due to the paper stock they're using. And I'll do a comparison, like I said. Then the backs of the books. Let's open this up and talk about some of the stories in here while looking at this beautiful black and white artwork, and of course looking at the extras, and we'll do a quick comparison to the Marvel printing. Go ahead and open this up. Your end sheets there. Love the additions of those. And then your credits here, Titan Comics, Heroic Signatures, and Special Thanks, and Savage Sword of Conan credits. Michael Fleischer, Bruce Jones, Savage Sword of Conan, written by Roy Thomas for issues 66 through 69. So he still has some issues written here. Big John Buscema, Ernie Chan, and Gil Kane. And then Joe Chiodo, Pablo Marcos, Gene Day, pencilers and layouts. And that is different than illustrations. Illustrations mean they're doing everything. Pencilers and layouts are John Buscema, Ernie Chan, Luke McDonnell, Ernie Colon, Bill Sienkiewicz right there. And inkers like Tom Palmer, Bob McLeod, Kerry Gamble, Pablo Marcos. Letterers like Rick Parker, Adam Kubert doing the lettering for issue 67. Joe Rosen. And no colors here. Table of contents, as I had mentioned, it's the exact same as the Marvel printing, with your introduction by none other than Louise Simonson, talking about who she was going to get to write the stories now that Roy Thomas was leaving, and Roy Thomas talking about leaving the book, but however some of his stories still stayed. So collected in here is Savage Sword of Conan 61 to 72. The book has 768 pages and retails for $125. So now we have Michael Fleischer working with John Buscema. We saw that John Buscema was working with JMD Mateas and Bruce Jones in that volume 5. But this is another one of those cases where John Buscema was inking himself. Just your typical story here of Conan trying to save a pretty girl in a castle. But it's really cool. And honestly, when it comes to Conan, a rare case where Big John got to ink himself. And I think in the introductions is because a lot of it had to do with how much they were able to pay him. Like his what he required to be a penciler was enough for Marvel, so they kind of scattered about the money, so they were trying to get other inkers in here. The covers are fully in color right here. And this one is by Michael Fleischer again, this time Ernie Chan doing the inks. And you can tell the difference in his inks. He uses those thick brushes, whereas Big John likes a lot more clarity to his art. This is the Temple of the Tiger storyline where Conan decides to become a pirate. And yes, lots of lady warriors through this particular issue. I'm not going to talk about each and every one of these. I just wanted to kind of show you what the art looks like through here. I'll pick and choose maybe a couple of other stories through here, but this is the type of art. It's the same type of stories that's come to be expected. We got Gil Kane, and you can see like Gil Kane's black and white is a lot different than the way that Big John, even with Ernie Chan inking him, the way they look compared to this right here. This is the story of Andrax the Last. So you do get a lot more than just Conan if it's Savage Sword, unless it's like something like Man-Thing like we saw in those early collections of the Omnibus editions. Let's skip a little bit more through here, and then we can do a comparison. Those gorgeous covers by Joe Jusko, man. Wow. You have the front piece here. That's a rare Joe Chiodo inked by Terry Austin right there. Gil Kane, who again was also drawing the main issues during this particular time of 1981 and doing some of the black and white stuff. Now actually using a lot more contrast in that first book he used, or in that first comic that he was using. Let's skip a little more and we move on to more Gil Kane. Now we have the Black Cloaks of Ophir. This is the one by Roy Thomas and Ernie Chan. There is a backup story in here that's got, is it Jean Day, I think? Pablo Marcos portfolio. So they do have portfolio pieces here. For some of the artists. And issue number 69, we have Ernie Chan with Alfredo Alcala right here. And that is absolutely stunning. This is probably my favorite story out of this omnibus right here. A lot of it probably has to do with Roy Thomas, The Eye of the Sorcerer. It's Conan ending up teaming up with this son right here and father, because they're just trying to transport cargo is all. But this reminds me of the movie, because when Conan gets captured, he ends up getting thrown into this mill right here where he's having to push, kind of like Arnold did at the beginning of the movie, if you remember that. Maybe that's why I like it. And plus, it's got just some phenomenal artwork through here. And, ooh, that is gorgeous. And something about this black and white, even though it's a little brighter, I think sometimes the scans are just, because they're, here, let's actually go back. Because of the original art, just looks a little brighter. Looks like it's faded out. By Big John Buscema and Steve Mitchell. I kind of like Mitchell's inks right here. It's definitely different than what Ernie Chan or even Big John were doing. And let's look at the issue number 72 here. And Bruce Jones is writing this one right here. The Colossus of Shem. And working with both Big John and Ernie Chan on this story right here. And another one that has a lot of horror elements with some fantastical elements added into it. Man, just wonderful artwork like that. And let's get to the back here. It's a preview of Conan the Motion Picture. Had to skip a couple pages because of the nudity. If you're familiar with the Savage Sword of Conan, it does have mature content. And that's mainly due to the nudity or violence. And the cover sketch right there, and then the Mahmoud Asrar cover? Yeah. All right, let's do a comparison to the original Marvel printing. All right, let's go ahead and open them up. And end sheets right there. Your title page. And this, let's actually get to the actual issues here. Let's look at the compare. There we go. So the way it lays over looks a little bit more vibrant in the new printing, and feels the paper stock of the new printing feels a little bit more, just a little more thick. So I mean, there's still bleed through happening, but not as prominent as over here. Where here, let's actually look at. There we go. Yeah, you can see a little bit coming over here and a little less over there. To kind of give you an idea of the type of bleed through. But yeah, the paper stock is a little bit thicker. But that's it. That, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing either Omni, don't forget to check out our sponsors.
If you're in Europe and you're interested in buying these books, definitely check out Walt's Comic Shop in Berlin, Germany. They have the cheapest pre-order prices, flat shipping rate of €12 for all EU countries, emails answered within 24 hours, waltscomicshop.com, and you can use the code nearmintcondition at checkout and get free shipping for all EU countries with your first order over €40. That's Walt's Comic Shop, your reliable source for omnis and premium collected editions in Europe. Ding!
BD Cosmos, the Canadian leader in graphic novels. They have a physical storefront in Montreal, Quebec, and their website, bdcosmos.com, offers 25% off your order of over $99 or more, and free shipping everywhere in Canada for every order of $250 or more.
Their shipping care is exceptional. Your books will stay cozy through the rough Canadian weather and arrive to you in near mint condition.
After checkout, let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way, and you'll be added to the monthly $25 gift card raffle. Entries are valid for new and returning customers.
Don't be afraid to call or email them. Ask them questions. Their staff is always happy to help guide you towards the right purchase. Visit their website, bdcosmos.com, for more. BD Cosmos, with rewards and raffles taking care of customers in Canada. Eh?
And that was the content, the page count, and build of both of these Omnis. In the comments down below, let me know which route you go. Are you a Conan, everything Conan? Are you Savage Sword Collector? Are you just Conan, the original Marvel era? Or are you getting the new stuff? If you have any questions, leave them down below. Don't forget to smash that like button on your way out, please. It goes a long way for us here on the channel. And also, we do have a Patreon and a spread shop. And it's a great way to support the channel if you can do so. But that's it, everybody. Stay healthy and safe out there. Until the next Conan.